Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I'm Katie Smith with the National Renewable Energy Laboratory, and I'm joined today by my colleague Hannah Pauling, who is part of the competition administration team with me. Today, we will be talking a little bit about some tips and tricks to keep in mind before you submit your core progress submissions next week. So just as a reminder, this webinar is being recorded and will be made available on our HeroX website by the end of this week. You can listen through your computer or you can listen by telephone. If you have any questions, please put them in the chat box and we will get to them at the end. Also, the Geothermal Collegiate competition is organized by the U.S. Department of Energy and the National Renewable Energy Laboratory. NREL is operated by the Alliance for Sustainable Energy, LLC, and funding is provided by the DOE Office of Energy Efficiency and Renewable Energy Geothermal Technology Office. The views expressed in this webinar do not necessarily represent the views of DOE or the U.S. government. So welcome. As I said, my name is Katie Smith, and I'm joined with my colleague Hannah Pauling today, when we are the competition administration team at NREL. So just a reminder, we want to go over the summary timeline for this academic year's competition. The core progress submission is due next Thursday, November 18th by 5 p.m. Eastern Time. That does need to be submitted through the HeroX website. We will then be reviewing those core progress submissions and providing feedback to teams by early December. There's a second elective module progress submission due in February, and then the final submissions are due in mid-April of 2022. So for next week's core progress submission, competing teams must enter a core progress submission. Teams with successful core progress submissions are considered semifinalists and are eligible to enter the elective module progress submission in February. The progress submissions must be entered in HeroX by the submission deadline in the form of a progress deliverable package, and the core progress deliverable package includes your site identification, preliminary stakeholder engagement strategy, preliminary resource assessment, and your preliminary environmental and permitting analysis. Please keep in mind this is a progress submission, so we are in no way expecting that you will have everything done for these. We're just looking to make sure that you are on the right track and provide any feedback that might be helpful for your team moving forward. So the rules document does have all of the details of the content and evaluation statements for all of the deliverables in this first core progress submission. So for the site identification, in this progress submission, we are asking for a map showing your identified site and a 2-page written narrative. You can see here the content that we expect teams to address in their narrative, and then the evaluation statements that our team uses when we're reviewing the submissions. Similarly, for the resource assessment, you can also see that each of these does have the page length and file type. Generally, references are not included in the page limits, but if they are, it will be noted on here. Similar to environmental and permitting analysis, we're looking at potential environmental impacts applicable to the selected sites and a table summarizing applicable federal, state, and local permits or approvals for the site. Once again, this does not have to be a deep dive and in-depth for this progress submission. We just want to make sure that you have gotten started on identifying these topic areas. For your stakeholder engagement strategy, we do ask that you have identified your relevant stakeholders and also created a list of interview questions. We do understand that some teams have not necessarily been able to reach out to their stakeholders yet because of different regulations, IRB approvals, etc. So you certainly will not be penalized for that. We understand that there are different processes that everyone needs to go through, but as long as you've identified the relevant stakeholders and started planning for when you're able to reach out and talk to them, you will likely do just fine on this portion of the submission. The final part of the course progress submission is just your team information. These questions are answered by your team captain directly in the HeroX platform, so there is no additional document that needs to be created. We do ask that your submissions include the name, college affiliation, and degree of every team member. And then we also ask that you include a team photo. If you have any feedback or questions for the administrator, there is a box for that as well on the submission page. You can always feel free to email us as well, and we'll have our contact information at the end of this presentation. So once we receive all of the core progress submissions, our teams will evaluate them using the evaluation statements that are shown in the rules. Teams advance to finalists if the competition administrator agrees on average with the evaluation statements more than they disagree with the statements. Teams are not competing against each other, and there's no limit on the number of semifinalists. So, we ask that you do your best, but please keep in mind you are not actually competing against anyone else at this phase yet. And we want everyone to do well and continue on in the conversation. So we will be providing feedback on your submissions to you in early December so that you know what you can focus on and beef up for your final strategy. So now we have some tips and tricks for you for the progress submission. So for this, I'm actually going to hand it over to Hannah. So Hannah.
Thanks, Katie. So first and foremost, just to reiterate what Katie said before, this submission is preliminary, but that being said, we will be able to provide much more helpful feedback to you if there is a significant amount of content for us to review. So while we don't expect every module to be complete at this point, it really is in your best interest to provide as much information as possible. Every evaluation statement that Katie showed in those tables is equally weighted, so make sure you do address every statement. Please pay attention to page limits. While we are a bit more lenient during this progress submission, the judges will actually just stop reading once they reach the page limit of your final submission. While there is not a set format that we require beyond the page limits and the file types specified in the rules document, please do keep readability in mind. It's really hard to read something that's like tiny font and single spacing. So just please keep that in mind. And your references at this point do not need to be perfectly formatted or finalized, but please do include them so that we can make sure that you are using credible sources. Once again, there is not a set style required, but please make sure it follows the format of the rest of your deliverables. Please proofread your documents. While they are very minimal, they do detract from your overall message, and they can really distract the reader. Try to submit early if you can. That way, if you have any sort of technical difficulties, you can reach out to us, the competition administration team, and we can make sure that you get your submission in by the deadline next Thursday. The appendices in the rule document have a lot of great resources for all parts of your submission package. So please make sure you utilize these if you're stuck or you just need more information to flesh out one of your sections.
Great, thanks, Hannah. I think those are all really great tips that everyone should keep in mind while they're preparing this progress submission. So, once again, progress submissions are due November 18th by 3 p.m. Eastern Time. They must be submitted through our HeroX site. If you've not already done so, please make sure that you have registered your team on HeroX, fully read the rules, and access those resources that Hannah was just talking about. We look forward to seeing progress submissions. And now we're going to open the floor up to questions. So if any of our viewers today have any last minute questions about their submissions, etc., please feel free. And yes, Nick, feel free to unmute and ask your question rather than typing it.
Hey, thank you. So I have one question relating to the environmental and permitting analysis. We have new team members this time around that are outside of our typical disciplines. And I guess their focus isn't necessarily geothermal like the rest of everybody. So is there a way that we can tailor the environmental analysis more appropriately? I know we're using the rapid toolkit. Are there any other suggestions?
No, I think the Rapid Toolkit is a great place to start. And I know last week's webinar with Lori Heider on stakeholder engagement, she covered some of that regulatory information as well. Those slides are actually going to be posted on HeroX in the resources area today, and the video will be up as well. I think the general idea around the regulatory and permitting is making sure that teams are identifying the various processes that need to go through. And there aren't necessarily geothermal specific processes, depending on where your site selection is. So, there's obviously NEPA, and then state specific, county specific, tribal specific, etc. So the regulatory piece should be tailored to your specific site.
Okay, thank you.
Does that answer the question?
It does answer the question. Okay. Yeah, and one additional, if I might. So the products, just to be clear, we're okay to produce more than just heat as an end use. Is that correct?
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Of course. If anyone else has any questions, you can feel free to either unmute yourself or ask, or you can type them directly into the comment box. Okay. Hannah, can you think of any other last minute tips or tricks for people?
I don't think so. Just as always, if you have any questions, please do reach out to us so we can help you out. Our email address is on the slide right here, and that mailbox is monitored daily, so we will get back to you very quickly.
Yeah, definitely. And you can also feel free to post in the forum on the HeroX site. Although in all honesty, you'll probably get a quicker response by emailing us directly, just because we get alerted when those happen, and we don't necessarily always get an alert when there's a forum post on HeroX. So, once again, we just recommend that you do your best for this initial submission. As we said, we are not expecting it to be your final complete product. The more information you are able to include, obviously, the more feedback we're able to provide with you. Please make sure that you're paying attention to proofreading, as well as page limits, formatting, etc., and use those resources that are available in the rules document to help you with your project. So thanks for joining us today, everyone, and have a great afternoon.
Thank you.